Hey everyone, it's Nancy the Nurse Practitioner here from Caregiver Success on YouTube. I happen to be out here on a beautiful winter day in Connecticut with my new friend Lori Candela. We have a stream behind us and a waterfall. It's beautiful, and I'll show you that another time. But we are here to talk about the big R word, retirement. Retirement can be scary for some people, or they're ready to go and they have all their plans in place. So unfortunately for me, I had a lot of good stuff to do, so I'm on the road running off, and since I started my channel a few years ago. Anyway, Lori is here to help us with those people who are getting ready for retirement, who maybe don't have any direction, and make a plan as they exit their jobs. And one thing I will say before we start is I found a lot of people, if they don't have a purpose or they don't have either friends or something that they like to do, like a hobby, really go down fast. Is that true, Lori?
That is absolutely true.
So,
Yes.
Lori, tell us about yourself and why you started doing this.
I will. Thank you. Nice to be here, Nancy.
Louder.
I will. In my younger life, I was a singer, so I try to remember how to project.
There you go.
Yes, so I am the founder of Retiring on Purpose. And I started this
name.
business, on purpose is the key. I started this business last year.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had a business for over 30 years. And I worked in learning and development, helping people through organizational transitions and individual as well.
Okay.
And as I started thinking about my own retirement, what did I want to do that would bring me purpose? And though I'm not technically retired yet, I retired from the work I did before. And now I focus, like you said, on helping pre-retirees and people who've recently retired figure out, what's my purpose now that I don't have this title behind my name? Who am I? What's important to me? And how do I want to spend this next chapter in my life so that it's meaningful and really brings joy?
So I noticed that one thing, my husband worked for 4 years more than I did. And when he retired, I said, this is my space.
Yes.
Like I had my knitting and I had my rock painting and I had my crafts, and I was like, you're moving into my space.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to get along again. Like he went to 12-hour days away, and now you're in the same kitchen and the same space. So how, maybe you can't get into that because that's marital stuff.
Oh, I can.
Okay, go ahead, Lori.
And because
How
I
do
can
you do
relate to
that?
it personally. My husband retired 2 years ago, and he worked a job where he was gone a lot, and now all of a sudden he was home a lot, and trying to find his place and what his identity was now that he didn't have that role behind him, and what was his new purpose. So we were dealing with a lot of that and dancing around, and also he was free to do whatever he wanted to do, and I wasn't. So it was, that challenge of, okay, so what do you want to do? Here's when I can do it. And, let's figure out a plan together, something we weren't used to really doing before.
So he was kind of waiting for you to have time off to do those things.
Yes, or wanted to be very spontaneous. Hey, it's a nice day out. Let's go do this. And I was like, yeah, it's a great day that I have to work. So.
Wow. So that is an
real
interesting
challenge.
one. Well.
And I do work with couples on that, the communication, the planning together. I actually have a free guide on my website that talks about, the art of communicating and marriage when we're thinking about retirement.
Oh, we're gonna have to get a hold of that from you, Lori. And also, we'll get you to Lori's website, which I will put in my little blog section on my YouTube channel, so you can find Lori for sure. So, you're like a coach, so to speak?
I am a coach, yeah.
Okay.
I mentioned to you I was in learning and development, and in that role I was an instructional designer, so I designed training strategies. I was a facilitator, a trainer. I worked as an outplacement consultant, helping people who lost their jobs find new ones and find purpose. So I kind of combined all that together and became a certified coach in 2019.
Okay.
And then as I was planning to rebrand my business and figure out exactly what change and transition I wanted to help people through, I discovered retirement coaching. And I was like, well, that's perfect because I'm at that age and there's so many baby boomers that either have retired or are going to retire soon.
Tons of us.
Who are looking at retirement a lot differently than our grandparents did, right? Looking for purpose, looking for what can I do next. So I got my certification as a professional retirement coach.
I never knew there was one. How
Me
wonderful.
either.
That's so
Me
cool.
either.
I would have loved something like that, but hey.
Hey, I'll
Yeah.
be in the direction.
No, I have enough balls up
You
in
have
the
enough.
air, everybody. Yeah.
It's a great program through the
Sounds
retirement
great.
project. Yeah. So now I'm able to really put my passion into play and helping people, as my tagline says, which is really my philosophy, retire with clarity and live with intention. You don't want to have regrets 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now saying, I wish I did it.
And that's so interesting you say that because we just planned a trip to Europe. I've never been to Europe. And and I told my husband, we need to do this a year ago for this February. And he's like, well, I don't want to think about that a year from now. What if blah, blah, blah? I'm like, well, we don't know, but we need to plan it or else we'll never happen.
Exactly.
My philosophy is different than his. You'll see you health professionals out there who've signed a lot of death certificates, buried a lot of patients, saw a lot of stuff. You don't want regret, and that's where my drive came from. Is I do have a little life left in me to do these things, even if the other person may not want to. Find someone to go there with
you. Exactly. It doesn't always have to be that spouse or partner.
Exactly.
You remind me of my financial advisor talks about the go-go years, which is where we are now, right? And then they turn into the slow-go years and the no-go years. And while I talk about my financial planner, I don't touch finances at all. I'm more on the lifestyle side and let them take care of helping people with finances.
So do you tack on to them, which is not a bad idea because people have a portfolio and they may not, some of my friends say, I don't have any money to do that. I didn't plan, so we're going to stay in this house, mow the lawn, not travel much, whatever, and you got to both kind of like say, this is where we're at, and we can't do more than that. Or, so it'd be great if the planner would say, with you, like, this is what you can do. Maybe Europe every 5 years, not once a year. Just so they don't run out of money. I think people in our age group, and I'm starting to see it with myself, is I'm starting to I'm not going to say collect things, but I'm saving things a little better. I'm not scrimping, I'm not spending frivolously because I'd like to use it for other things.
Yeah, things and experiences. Yes, exactly. And not trying to accumulate things. I think we get to that age where we're saying, I've got enough stuff. Now I want the memories. Now I want the experiences.
Yeah.
And, that's what this is all about.
It's all about time.
It is.
The time. So we know what inspired you to become a retirement coach, which is, we understand that totally. So what is the transition challenge that you see that most happens between you? What's the hurdles behind?
Well, when you think about retirement, right, we're working so hard all these years building up to that great event when we can retire and we don't have to go into work anymore. And it sounds wonderful until sometimes we get there. Because it's a big life change, right? And we're focused on work. And sometimes we're not prepared for the downside of retirement. Where, you wake up the next morning, the retirement party's over, all the, fun and games is done, you've said your goodbyes, and now it's like, who am I? What do I do next? What's my purpose? I have some friends that have allowed themselves, 6 months, a year off, and to do anything they want to do. And that's worked well for them.
Yeah.
For some people, it plunges them right into a depression. And that's dangerous. There are a lot of, again, I have another free guide on my website, The Dark Side of Retirement. It talks about the depression, the anxiety, the addictions, that people fall into because they don't know who they are, what their purpose is, or how they want to spend their time.
The other thing I noticed is that you don't have, like my husband, now that he's retired, gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to go to the gym. He gets dressed, he has a coffee on, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get my hair cut, today I'm going to go this and I'm going to do that. And he says, and that's it. But at least he makes a plan for the day.
Yeah,
but he's an engineer, so engineers think differently than other people.
But that structure is so key. Because it's so easy to just say, well, I'm just going to have my coffee and, watch the news or read the newspaper and then fall into that.
Binge movies.
And not want to get dressed and go out, right?
Yeah.
But having that purpose and that plan and the connection that I'm sure he has at the gym, even if it's just saying hello to the person when he walks in to check in, right? Having that connection is so important so we don't become isolated. We don't feel like we're disconnected.
So I have a question for you though,
Yeah.
because men and women have different views on this. I mean, I already had like, I like to have fun, but I also, he says I don't want to go out, but you go out with Martha and go find a place to hear music for tonight. It could be a Wednesday night, and he's like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to read my magazines, and do you find that men have a different network, or not as much as women when they retire?
I think, I think it may be harder for some men, but I don't want to categorize men versus women. I think it's more personality type. So, we think about the extrovert, right? Which it sounds like you are, and maybe the introvert, where he's more driven by being alone, by being peaceful and quiet, where you may be more driven with the social. I'm more of an ambivert. I'm a little bit of both.
Actually,
right?
I am both. I will say I'm both. Yeah. But because I like to have my day by myself too.
Absolutely.
Which I don't get anywhere.
Yeah. So that's important to have that time apart and to know that it's okay as long as you have that conversation and you're good with, okay, what would make it work together for us as a couple? What would you like to do that I'm good with and we can do together? And then what can you do on your own? I know my husband still gets together with guys that he worked with. They have breakfast. They go to
That's cool.
an organization that they belong to. They have a meeting once a month.
That's cool.
Important.
Yeah, he doesn't do that. Actually, one of his good friends died at 60 and went through cancer care for years. And he was like his real cool friend, his like best bud. And I think that kind of put a squash on that whole thing, because that is the other thing. We start to watch disease in our family, where we become caregivers for friends, neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, our parents if they're still around. So sometimes our full-time job actually becomes a full-time caregiver.
Yes.
And then you're like, boy, I'm glad I retired because mom needs me every day.
Yeah.
Or a grandchild. I have two new grandchildren, and I'm like, can you babysit tonight, Mom? And so I'm like, I've got a lot of different hats on, which is great. And it's tiring and it's hard.
And knowing and being able to set boundaries, so that self-care is so important, as you know, right? It's so important to be able to set those boundaries and say, I love my grandchildren, I love my mother that needs help, and I need to love you and put my oxygen out.
Like my husband is 68 and his kids are 25 and 29. My kids are 10 years older, so they're out married with these grandchildren, but he's the one still navigating retirement and having graduation and getting them that's a really, really tough thing because he's 10 years behind me because he waited to have kids, and our children are having kids in their 30s, late 30s, and they're going to be like him.
Fortunately, a lot of them find me, which is very nice. It's a matter of thinking about, who can I get in front of to share these thoughts with. So I've done a lot of presentations. In the new year, I'll be doing some free webinars once a month that talk about these topics and the importance of really planning. And like you said, you mentioned something about your husband's friend passing away. Well, a lot of people say to me, why do I need a plan? Life is going to happen anyway. But that's when we begin to build resilience and to say, okay, my plan didn't quite work out the way I was hoping. Now how do I shift and adjust?
Good point.
So really, getting these ideas out there and helping people to understand that transition's tough. It's okay not to be ecstatic. I remember people asking my husband, so how's retirement? And they were hoping to hear, oh, it's wonderful. I travel, I do this, I do that. And it was hard. It was hard to answer. I feel lousy. I miss my colleagues. I miss my work. I'm not sure what my purpose is. Thinking about you and your contributions to the work, whether it's your family, your grandchildren, your coworkers. When you leave that workspace, how do you want them to remember you? And maybe it's your community. Maybe it's your faith community. Whatever that is, and really acting on what you want that to be.
I like the intention, because if you get up with intention, and I think, like for me, I became much more spiritual as the years went on, because I realized that God has been good to me, and I'm grateful every day. I did a YouTube video on, it's from the NIH. I was in the gym, and I'm like, we're supposed to, stretch and do all this. I said, when I pray every morning, on my knees. I can get up off the floor because I go to the gym. I'm like, we gotta, you gotta keep moving. So maybe you add. Some people say they get in the best shape of their lives
So important.
when they retire because now they have time to go every day
And you
and
know,
do a little something for themselves.
yeah, and what we encourage is think about what you want to retire to, not necessarily start once you retire, right? Because even though you have that time, more time to do it, but what's your plan? If you're not exercising now, if you're not eating healthy, what little steps can you take now so that you can retire to that approach to life, so that you can really enjoy the longevity that we can have?
And that's just it too. We know we're going to someday die, unfortunately, and some people suffer to the very end, and some people, were golfing and they have massive heart attack, and people aren't ready. But the thing that's cool about it is they were golfing in the sun, and who wants to suffer because you could have done some things earlier that may have given you a nicer run too. So you're right about the health part. What's your vision? What are you going to do for you?
One of the reasons,
if you want to get personal.
Yeah, one of the reasons that prompted me to go in this direction is a couple of years before my husband planned to retire, his friends would say to me, "So when are you going to retire?" And I would say, "Never. I'm never going to retire." And that was my quick answer. And then I started really reflecting on what's beneath that. What's my fear about retiring or whatever, that's keeping me. And I realized that I wanted to be relevant. I've kind of connected retirement with lack of relevancy, that I would no longer matter. And I had to shift my mindset around that and think about what can I do to stay relevant. And I've been a lifelong learner.
Okay.
And it's continuing to grow in the work that I want to do, and to have flexibility in my work too. The work I was doing in the past really required me to be present with my clients on site in a large corporate environment, and I knew that that wasn't sustainable if I wanted to retire and have flexibility in my lifestyle. So really kind of combining what's underneath that fear and knowing, okay, then what can I do to remain relevant and to live with intention and making that happen.
Sounds great. We're all going to hopefully get to this point where we do retire, either financially we're okay, or even if we're not, but we have our health and we have our family, and we move in with a daughter or whatever we do. But, we only have this little period of time, maybe 15, 20 years if you're, and hopefully you're well up to that point. Is there anything you'd like to close with, and tell me how we would reach you?
Thank you.
Yeah. Say it louder.
Yes, thank you. And I would just say, as I said, you want to just be clear about what you want. As Nancy said, this time frame is a lot shorter than what we've had before us. And knowing that, and knowing I want to make the most out of this time, knowing what you want, and going out and getting it is key.
That's
so I
so
encourage you to reach out to me if you just want to chat. I have some free, as I mentioned, some free guides and assessment on my website that you're welcome to take. You can reach me at retiringonpurpose.com, and I would welcome a conversation with you.
That's great. And if I could just toot my own horn for a minute
Please
here.
do.
For 2 seconds, everybody who knows this book came out for caregivers, because even if you've retired, you may be still taking care of your 95-year-old mom and just have some general questions to keep her at a medical crisis. Caregiver Success Tips and Tools, and you can find that on www.nancythenp.com, or you can even message me here on my YouTube channel, Caregiver Success, and just say, "Hey Nancy, where's that book?" And I'll help you find it. Lori, this was wonderful.
Thank you.
I hope everybody can hear us with the beautiful stream behind us, but hey, we took a chance.
We did.
Well, take care, everyone. Happy New Year to you, and we'll see you at the next video from Nancy the NP.
Thanks,
Bye, y'all.
Nancy. Bye.